Hello, what is up ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the one and only Jewel here once again, and in addition to able to welcome you guys back for the likes of the Maxi22 videos, but also welcome back for more of the films of the Mega Man Marathon 2 for the likes of 2022. So anyways, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mega Man The Wily Wars for the likes of the Sega Mega Drive / Sega Genesis. So last time we basically managed to took down all 8 Robot Masters from the likes of the Mega Man 3 portion of the game, and today we're going to be able to actually revisiting not only Spark Man, Needle Man, Gemini Man, and also the Shadow Man stages, because much like the original version of the game, we still need to able to take down all 8 Dark Robots, which I will still say this right now, these are by far my least favorite portion of Mega Man 3, which, don't get me wrong, I don't mind revisiting some of these stations again, but however though, they altered slightly for the sake of the forms of some level designs involved. Like for example, in the forms of the Sparkman stage, as you can see, rather than you able to actually get yourselves a freebie platform to able to hop on into, or a ladder rather, but instead we have to use the Rush Coil ability until you're able to actually jump a bit higher, so that way you can able to proceed forward. So either way though, because chances are, and for the majority of the time is the fact that sometimes you will come across into a lot of spikes, which that was before when Mega Man 4 was a thing, and basically in that game of Mega Man 4 does have a lot of emphasis on spike placements. But either way though, it doesn't feel that much challenging, I must admit though. Well, despite the fact that the only thing it's really tough though is the Dark Robots themselves, because as you probably already know from the likes of the original version of Mega Man 3, that most of those Dark Robot segments are usually contains 2 Dark Robots in each 4 of those levels. So because of that though, you know, like I said before, you have to encounter those things for about a grand total of 8 times. And as you can see, that the Dark Robots also copies the actual movesets from the likes of Mega Man 2. Like for example, this Dark Robot's ability is the forms of the Metal Blade, and it's up to you, you need to figure out the new weakness this time around. So for instance, as you can tell that we've already equipped the forms of the actual Magnet Missile, basically this allows me to able to actually just well, I'm sure that you've already seen this in action ever since in yesterday, so because of that though, yeah, today's day is of course the 29th of August today, in this case in 2022 today. Unfortunately though, there's going to be some sad news for the sake of the forms of today, which I'll discuss more details about that until whenever we get to the later proceedings for this Let's Play in particular, because I know for the fact that in addition to able to actually almost trying to able to completely done with the forms of the entirety, not just by the forms of Mega Man The Wily Wars, but also the Mega Man 3 portion, and because of that though, since now we're not going to be able to doing with the forms of the Dark Robot segments, and because of that though, and after that, we're able to actually take on the forms of the one-on-one competition with the forms of that particular familiar robots that we've already come across into, which is of course Break Man. But either way though, we'll point it out whenever we get into it. Well, I'm sure that most people already know that we've already did on the original NES version of the game back in the forms of 2018, and I believe Daffy Duck did manage to able to tackle for that game back in the day. So anyways, now let's move on to the Quick Man's ability for Dark Robot, and I think his weakness is Surge Snake. So because of that though, yeah, all the actual movesets for the sake of the forms of weakness is pretty much unchanged. So because of that though, we always have to, you know, stick to the point. So, and I somehow managed to able to go frozen for some reason. But thankfully though, I don't think I can able to get myself soft locked or anything else to be more specific, because, well, after that victory fanfare, we can simply just move on to the next stage. So, and of course we'll once again save our game here. So I'm very super pleased about the fact that with the save files they were actually included. So next we'll hit on to Needle Man. So because of that though, and sometimes that's the certain time of day for that particular stage actually alters. Like normally, whenever we experiencing Needleman stage from the very beginning of the game, that takes place in daytime, whilst in the Dark Robot segment, it now takes place in nighttime, which is to be expected. So yeah, I digress. And I know for the fact that some people still are not a big fan of the forms of the Dark Robot segments, because in addition that you have to find a new weakness to certain dark robots, well, to be more specifically based off from the actual robot masters from the likes of Mega Man 2, but also this particular segment are very stingy with checkpoints, which, if you manage able to actually come across into the first dark robot, and basically though in one of those stages anyway, if you stumble across in one of those dark robots, basically though, every time you die, well basically though, is the fact that the checkpoint does not spawn in from that middle portion of the level. The only time it only triggers is the fact that if you start the level, or simply make your way to the end of a level, which, thankfully, if you come across into another dark robot in every single ending portions of the stages themselves, thankfully though, the checkpoint is active, so because of that though, I can totally see why a lot of people seem to be able to actually get a lot of frustration with the forms of trying to take on the dark robots themselves, which I will have to admit though right away, it is a bit tough to be able to avoid them sometimes, because obviously that you can't really tell of you able to try and able to avoid them depending on the forms of some random patterns involved, or to be more specifically with this unpredictable movements. So yeah, I highly may able to actually delve through anyway. So anyways, let's go ahead and use the actual you know, the Mega Buster itself. Oh sweet, I got myself my full health, so kudos to that particular random pickup items and stuff like that. Well, usually at the moment right now, I still got a lot of extra lives, which still, this game is super generous when it comes to giving you a lot of extra lives, especially noticeable when it gets to the point, you know, in the Gemini Man stage. So now next up we have is Airman, and his weakness is obviously you know, the actual spark shot. So because of that though, hopefully we'll try to able to kick his butt, no problem. At least you might able to take invincibility frames and then just trying to walk through those projectiles. But still, I found these to be kind of an inconsistent you know, pattern with these guys sometimes. And also there's a segment right there that we have to utilize the rush jet in order to able to make your way for this entire portion, because if you run out of them, then you're going to able to go back onto that segment again, which I think the checkpoint is right onto that particular halfway point of the stage already, so yeah, it doesn't matter if I somehow die, and then I can simply just able to try this part again. So at least assuming if I don't mess things up when it comes to likely not only just get bumped into those parachuting looking enemies, but also just managed able to keep an eye on with my health meter and stuff like that. So yeah, you get the idea. Seriously, Rush Jet still rocks in this game, especially noticeable because, well, obviously unlike Mega Man, you know, 4 and Mega Man 5, and especially Mega Man 6 and even 7, and even especially noticeable in Mega Man 9 and 10, and I think possibly Mega Man 11 as well. Well, despite the fact that it's been a very long while since I actually last played Mega Man 11 recently on my Nintendo Switch version, because I no longer have the PS4 version anyway, just because, man, some of these trophies they've got is really impossible to accomplish. So that's the reason why I've decided able to go for Mega Man 11 on the Switch this time, so that way I can play that game on the go, rather than need able to actually stuck into the forms in the bedroom all day. So, or in this case on TV most of the time. I know that's technically a remote play from the PlayStation Vita, technically speaking, but it knows where it stands. So, anyways, let's take down those cannon turrets, so we can able to actually expect to move on. Actually, let's skip that one, because we'll just take the invincibility frames while doing so. And of course, then we need to take down this particular mini boss fight twice, by the way, in order to progress. So that way we need to able to actually aim on this little plus symbol, so that way it'll deal the amount of damage. So you can get the idea about the forms of that specific routine and stuff like that. So anyways though, let's get to the forms of that particular discussion when it comes to today anyway, and that is the fact that while this is going on, I suppose that some other toys haven't mentioned about this during the course of Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge Let's Play, and the Game Boy versions of the likes of Mega Man 2, 3, 4, and 5, and especially noticeable with Mega Man and Bass sequel game, which I'm sure that I think already mentioned about that several times throughout in the past few days, and also Mega Man on the Game Gear. Basically does the fact that I suppose the other toys haven't forgot to mention about, now's the forms of every now and then on certain films throughout the forms of 2002 for about 2 decades ago. that basically certain films do manage able to make their top 10 best box office performance for the sake of the films of that year in 2002 for the likes of 2 decades ago. So likely, for instance, that I don't know. Unfortunately, though, Lilo and Stitch does not make it onto the top 10 list because I'm pretty sure because of the forms of how, in fact, it's on 2D animation. So every once in a while, that everyone seems to be able to always enjoy the 3D animations a lot, just because it's quite revolutionary. So yeah, I guess that makes it totally obvious for the sake of time. But as far as the 10th spot on the list, which has to be by the films of Mayor G Reports, which is by the films of not only Fox, but DreamWorks as well. So I think that film is now usually on to, I think that film was actually on $358,300 or million worldwide. So I can't really get my maths working very well, so I do apologize for that. So, and there was also My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which that was on the 9th spot on the box office performance, and the original Wily Stage was on the 8th spot because that was the start of the forms of the Blue Sky Studios film and stuff like that, which that was before when you know, Dr. Seuss, Who Reads Here's the Whom, or anything else like that, which I totally forgot what that name of the film is, because it has been ages since I actually last heard about the films of the Dr. Seuss kind of films like this, and before Robots, even my favorite films before that, which is obviously the film stars me and my beloved husband Blue, from the likes of Rio 1 and 2. We still haven't heard from the likes of Rio 3 yet, which it was supposed to be able to actually become like a Disney Plus exclusive, which it might actually worry some fans out there, especially noticeable because obviously after that miserable failure from the likes of you know, the Ice Age Adventures of Wild Buck with its art style and all that stuff. So as a result though, I'm just a little bit worried if our film is actually going to get a lot more underwhelming, which I'm hoping it's not gonna happen because I'm still highly expected for the likes of how in fact now I'm really hoping that'll be yeah, it's hard to explain because I know it has been such a long time since I actually known about that stuff. So, and the 7th place goes to Science, and 6th place goes to Die Another Day, the final Pierce Brosnan film from the likes of the James Bond series of films, and 5th place goes to Men in Black 2, and number 4 goes to Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, which some people might find this to be very overrated and stuff like that, and some people might find that film to be one of the worst films of the Star Wars, you know, prequel trilogy, which it's hard to tell, honestly, from my honest opinion taste, but I found the film okay. It's not the best, though. It's definitely not the best. But as a result, though, that's sure it's something. And number 3 goes to the original Spider-Man, the one that started it all when it comes to the actual Spider-Man live-action movies and stuff like that, which I certainly enjoy. And number 2 goes to Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Jeez, that film is also likely 2 decades old, which, man, time flies. And finally, number 1 goes to The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. So, yeah, I can totally see how the fact that that film is actually getting a lot more popular for the films of, not only for the sake of box office performance, but usually I do definitely know that film is actually, well, I'm not gonna lie, ridiculously long as it is for the sake of the film's length. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting to say the least. So, alright, so here we go with Dark Robots number... I would say this is the 5th time come across into the Dark Robots, and this time you actually stumbled across the Flashman's weapon. So, yeah, that might be some conception. So, anyway, so we did easily take him down from the likes of utilizing the Gemini laser. So, because of that, despite I rarely used it that much, because of the forms of that exact same issues I have with that ever since on the original NES version. So, but there's no point mentioning about that again, because either way, let's get into the forms of that underwater segment, which I highly recommend you're able to use Rush Marine in order able to actually just to progress, so that way you can able to actually easily manage to able to avoid not only tons of enemies, but also death spikes here and there. So, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. And I think that will be the only instances of the films are trying to utilize the Rush Marine ability. So because of that though, yeah, that was the only time we could use it. So nor do why that Rush Marine never brought back from the likes of the future games every now and then, but it knows where it stands. So now, as far as the films of 2012, for about a decade ago, when it comes to film releases for its box office though, I believe, what if I double check on it, oh man, they actually got it ridiculously, way higher from the likes of certain other films. Like, I know for the fact that, well, let's get into the films of the top 10 best high-grossing films from the likes of 2012 after a decade ago, which, first of all, number 10 goes to Men in Black 3 after the events of, well, the second film came out in 2002, which is about 2 decades ago, and, yeah, that's something. And number 9 goes to The Hunger Games, and number 8 goes to Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, because it makes sense, because obviously that film is actually, you know, I'm not gonna lie, my favorite film of this entire trilogy when it comes to Madagascar films and stuff like that. And I'm sure that most toys, including Maxi himself, has already mentioned about the fact that obviously that film has now already become a decade old ever since, well, at least in North America, specifically in June in 2012. So yeah, that begs the question for us. So, and number 7 goes to The Amazing Spider-Man, the first one in the series, with the one of those, you know, the duology, you know, Amazing Spider-Man films at this point in time. And number 6 goes to The Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 2. So, I'm never actually a big fan of the Twilight films, to be honest with you, because it just feels a bit, I don't know about you, very underwhelming to say the least, at least as far as I'm usually concerned with that specific stuff. And number 5 goes to Ice Age 4 Continental Drift, which also that film is now a decade old, and also the Hobbit and Unexpected Journey for number 4, and I believe number 3 goes to The Dark Knight Rises after the events of the amazing The Dark Knight film back in 2008. Despite its has some generally favorable reviews for the sake of the films of The Dark Knight Rises, but nothing even compares to the films that superior of the Dark Knight film came out in 2008 because of the amazing Joker and stuff like that. And second place goes to Skyfall, which by that point in time, until 2 months' time anyway, is the fact that obviously that film will be a decade old. So yeah, time flies, doesn't it? Especially noticeable about the fact that, well, for those who have not seen the film, I'm not going to spoil things majorly for the sake of the films of Skyfall, because if you guys have never actually saw it, then I'm not going to spoil things majorly for the sake of time, so I'll promise you guys about this. And number 1 for its box office performance for the sake of the films of 2012 after a decade later. Basically, the original The Avengers, you know, with the films of that Marvel superhero crossover, did manage to make it on top. So, pretty much obvious sense, because obviously the first time ever that the, you know, Iron Man, along with Captain America, and also, I think I just heard the actual door knock. Hello? It's probably nothing. I'm pretty sure that I do apologize if my commentary gets a little bit cut off for a second ago, because I think I sort of noticed is that Blue, my husband, is actually managed to double check on me to see how I'm going to be doing. So, yeah, bless him. So, either way though, anyway, because, you know, that was the first time with, you know, Iron Man and Captain America, the Incredible Hulk, and especially noticeable with Hawkeye and, you know, Black Widow managed able to, oh, and a Thor as well, managed able to actually just fight for the universe for the first time ever, which, that was the biggest event ever back in the day, from the likes of 2012, which it'll continue that tradition until 2019, which is even massive compared to the films of how it does it on any other sequels in the past, well, to be more specifically other films, potentially, so, yeah, so, because basically, yeah, that's as far as I can say about it. Although I would like to mention about the films of how the fact that, well, when it comes to likely for the box office films list for the sake of 2022, well, we're not able to actually save that up until whenever we get to the films of the new year from the likes of 2023. So either way though, oh shoot, that reminds me. Actually, I'll get into more details about that because here we have our final encounter with the Dark Robot, and this time you got the actual abilities based off from Heatman. And let's just go ahead and take our life away, just because, well, in addition that I'm probably not gonna be able to deal with this Dark Robot with a little bit amount of health, but also about the fact the matter is the fact that, well, it might be seems obvious because I just don't want to take him down with my 1 unit of health left, so. And of course, his weakness is obviously going to be top spin, still pretty pathetic and useless because obviously they have to be dead on, right closer to the forms of certain enemy encounters and certain bosses, but either way, there we go. That pretty much concludes the Dark Robot segment. Thank God that was over. But if you think this is over, much like the forms of how it does in the original NES version, that we might able to come across into that familiar robot that we've already come across into several times in the past, we have Breakman. So because of that though, it takes place in this arena. So yeah, let's take him down for, well, hopefully for reals. Well, eventually that's, well, if you've seen our Let's Play of Mega Man 3 before from the likes of 2018, you know exactly how this guy is actually going to be able to be referring to, which, either way though, we'll point out whenever we're able to get into the later portion of this particular portion of the Wily Wars, so. Oh jeez, he's yeah, he's pretty much exactly the same as the forms of how it does it on any other encounters with him, so. Nothing different from him, he just keeps on jumping and just keep on shooting the projectiles at you, so nothing different from there. But what's up with you? Oh no, right after we received the last element, Wylie run off with Gamma. Oh boy, so this means we have to deal with the forms of another Wily Fortress stages, so because of that, yeah, we can pretty much expect this is going. Although thankfully though, unlike the forms of how it does it on the original NES version of the game, that basically, it just spells Dr. Wylie wrong. Like, I think it calls him like Wylie. Well, usually on the Mega Drive version of Mega Man 3, they managed able to fix that spelling, so because of that though, it's obviously Dr. Wylie. So, yeah, that's pretty much usually as far as I can say about the forms of that particular spelling corrections here and there. So, yeah, we get the idea about that, so. Anyway, so we know what this is going. We need to once again take down Dr. Wylie and stuff like that. And I think, suffice to say, well, we're gonna say this again, after the events of the NES version of the Mega Man 3, that this is by far the easiest Wylie castle in any other Mega Man game, because for one, I think the levels are pretty short, and most of the time it doesn't give you that much frustration here and there, whilst compared to the forms of how it does it on some of these stages from Mega Man 1 sometimes, due to its archaic kind of style, and also, you know, with the forms of that frustration I have from the likes of Wily Stage 4 in Mega Man 2 because of that stupid turret boss. Well, at least as far as I'm usually probably already know it for the sake of time, but I digress. And kind of thing about it though is the fact that still, from the third time coming for the likes of the Wily Fortress stages is the fact that this particular stage is so generous with you when it comes to not only weapon reveals, but also, health pickups, and especially noticeable with more E-tanks to spare, and even extra lives as a result too. So because of that though, because I consider this to be one of the easiest final Dr. Wylie castles in any other Mega Man games up to that point. So, yes, like I said, super generous and stuff like that, so just in case you don't, you know, die so many times, especially noticeable that, like I said, they can able to actually pick up as many of those E-tanks as spare this time around though, unlike in Mega Man 2, you only need to pick up about 4 of them, like I said, so. Now, I'm sure that some toys has already mentioned about that from before this, which is obviously Sonic the Hedgehog already mentions about this, and especially noticeable that Daffy Duck also mentions that as well, so either way though. Yeah, that's as far as I can say in terms of the forms of that particular things itself, obviously, so because of that though, let's just go ahead and just skip those disappearing blocks, which I think relatively speaking is just the fact that we can just simply use Rush Jet at any point, which by that time, whenever we get into the actual final game on this entire compilation, well, to be more specifically, whenever I discuss more about that, whenever we get to the very end of Mega Man 3, portion of Mega Man The Wily Wars, well, basically, we know exactly what this is going, so... Anyway, so let's go ahead and take down this Kamegoro Maker, which basically in order to deal with this particular boss is the fact that obviously we need to deal with these turtles that do manage to pop out with the actual crane machinery thing. So because of that though, the only weakness is obviously the Shadow Blade, so either way though, self-explanatory. While the actual currents itself, thankfully it doesn't able to hurt you, they just push you around, so thankfully that doesn't give you that much trouble with for any circumstances whatsoever. So anyways, that pretty much does it for, you know, Wily Stage, or Dr. Wily Stage 1. And now let's move on to Dr. Wily Stage 2. So, I'm telling you, this particular castle is gonna be so much of a cakewalk. Like, I'm not gonna lie, because, well, relatively speaking, because every time, whenever you move on to the next few stages, then obviously it just gives you a lot of useful items, such as, of course, like I said, weapon refuel energy, as well as the forms of health pickups and occasional lives and E-tanks, essentially. So, yeah, I guess that's that. There's an extra life down there, which at this point I think I'm probably gonna skip it because, of course, much like any other Mega Man games, you can only carry up to 9 of them, as opposed to, you know, too much like 10 or higher, because obviously then we're just gonna have to strictly go towards like 9 and stuff like that. So, oh gosh, some of these, like, let's just say like a green snappy traps here and there, but thankfully we can easily avoid them, so yeah, let's go ahead and use Rush Jets, so just in case we can able to catch a ride with him. Oh jeez, those bee-like enemies are back from the likes of Hardman stage, or yeah, Hardman, yeah. So anyway, I do apologize if my commentary gets a little bit slightly iffy, but let's face it, it's the fact that we're pretty much almost at the very end of this marathon, basically. So even then, though, things to be expected by this point. So anyways, let's keep picking up those. Oh jeez, those bees are trying to tick me off. But at least thankfully, though, we're able to get ourselves not 1, but 2 E-tanks to spare. So at the very least, let's go ahead and use one already for the likes of the next boss coming up, which, yeah, let's just go ahead and set up the Hard Knuckle as far as the next weapon's weakness on this particular boss fight. So let's see what we have here. So, oh my gosh, this is familiar. This is Yellow Devil! In this case, Yellow Devil Mark III, because obviously this is Mega Man 3, of course, and at least thankfully, unlike the first encounter with Yellow Devil from Mega Man 1, basically though, he moves a bit slower than he forms of how he does it on the first game, and plus you do have E-tanks, so thankfully that this boss is pretty simple. So because of that though, plus that the actual movements on the Yellow Devil Mark III, when it comes to likely going to bits and bobs, it actually moves a lot slower thanks to the forms of how the, much like, you know, Yellow Devil for Mega Man 1, portion of this entire compilation, if you ever played the game within the PAL version of the game, it does have a lot of slowdown, which as a result though, gee, no wonder why that the PAL version of this particular game is actually ridiculously expensive if you're trying to go after the original cartridge for it, even especially with the box version here and there as well, like almost to the point with the exact same price as in Nintendo Switch OLED model, or PlayStation 5, or Xbox Series X, for that matter, on certain secondhand stores. But either way though, that's besides the point. So anyway, so now let's move on to Dr. Wily Stage 3. So at least I'm very surprised that we've almost nearly at the end, for the sake of the forms of the entirety of Mega Man 3. So either way though, let's just go ahead and send out Rush Coil, so just in case we can able to spring ourselves upwards, despite I somehow got hit by that random projectile from that enemy that is usually on top. So oh well, no big deal, but at the very least we can able to actually just use E-tanks if we keep on lowering our health down. So, and plus, oh, speaking of E-tanks, there you go. So easy, I'm telling you. This is such a cakewalk. Whilst, you know, unlike, you know, Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 1, some levels are pretty easy and self-explanatory, whilst most of the time it's frustratingly difficult, mainly for in Mega Man 1's case, but I can possibly understand because of the faults of the first game in the series, so yeah, you get the idea about that. So anyway, so let's not deal with you because you're not that important to me. So yeah, let's just go and continue. Oh jeez, how am I supposed to avoid these? Ah, dang it! I ran into him by accident, but I was expecting that because this particular segment is a bit, you know, cramped in here, but at the very least we had got the checkpoint, so at the very least we got that, so... Oh jeez, those spikes with all these moving... Ah, dang it! I did not react to it in time! Ah, oh well, we'll just keep trying anyway, but thankfully we still got a lot of extra lives to work with, so... At least I don't have to deal with the forms of that particular game over screen for most of the time, unlike some difficulty curve from the likes of the Game Boy Mega Man games for sure, because of screen crunch and all that stuff though. Even worst case scenarios with Mega Man for the Game Gear, because obviously the screen resolution is crunched, so... But I'm sure that, I'm pretty sure that, you know, as far as what, Ray the Flying Squirrel has already mentioned about this ever since in, you know, in that Let's Play in general for the likes of this particular month, so... At least the weather is still pretty good though so far, for the UK anyway, still looks hot and everything, but at the very least I'm usually open my window for its fresh air, and also just trying to able to have my fan on, despite it might actually decide to able to get a lot of, you know, electricity bills for it, but I honestly don't care, because, well, I can do whatever I want, despite, you know, how pricey some of these bills are. But anyway, so let's go and take on the next boss, which appears to be, well, the holograph Mega Man. And basically, we need to find the real one, and basically, if you deal with the real one while trying to able to utilize Search Snake, and basically though, then you would deal with this particular boss fight no problem. So, yeah, that's pretty much easy. Alright, so I believe we'll now move on to Dr. Wily Stage 4, which, as far as I'm aware, I'm presuming that we're able to actually, like, well, it's kind of hard to say, honestly, because, although, let's get into the forms of that particular important discussion, is the fact that since that today, like I said, is the forms of today's day is, of course, the 29th of August today, in this case in 2022 today, there's some sad news to tell you, and that is the fact that, unfortunately though, you can no longer going to be using the eShop vouchers for not only for the Wii U, but also the 3DS itself as well. So because of that though, yeah, if you're about to be able to try to get, you know, DLC for Mario Kart 8, the original version, at least thankfully on the Switch version, it's usually available from the start if you managed able to... Oh wow, I got my another extra life! At the very least, I got myself my extra lives back. So, anyway, at least thankfully, unlike the Switch version, that some of the contents for certain games are already available from the get-go. Like, you know, like I said, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and also say applies to New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. At the very least, also, is the fact that you can able to still get New Super Luigi U as a standalone physical release. So, that's that. And especially noticeable with Pikmin 3 Deluxe on the Switch, because every single DLC content was there. So despite the fact that I somehow managed to able to skip that purchase, because, well, you know, still I'm just basically Pikmin out for the majority of my life, because, well, I'm just not very great at those games, I must be honest here. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much that. And yeah, let's just go ahead and deal with those 8 Robot Masters with as a rematch. So either way though, and every time, much like in Mega Man 2, you're able to get yourselves your health refilled if you managed able to get hit quite a few times. So yeah, I guess that's a pretty handy item to have. So anyway though, and also at the very least from the likes of let's just say in Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition on the Switch, that every single DLC content is there, so at the very least you got that. And also from the likes of, I would classify for saying from the likes of, actually to be honest with you, there's not much else I could talk about. Well, at the very least also is the fact that, I think relatively speaking, is the fact that when it comes to likely for other things, for, you know, eShop games and stuff like that, well, it's pain to say about the fact that we have to say goodbye to the eShop apps from the likes of not only for the Wii U, but also the 3DS as well. Although, thankfully on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate though, that at the very least you will still be able to actually access to certain characters usually contains from DLC content from Smash 4 on the 3DS and Wii U, that you're still able to actually get Mewtwo, Lucas, Roy, Ryu, and same applies to Cloud, and Corrin, and Bayonetta from the likes of Smash Ultimate, so at least that's that. And yeah, it's just, it sucks. Like, literally, that's literally the worst thing that's ever happened. At least I think Pac-Man has already mentioned about this ever since in Wario Land 4 Let's Play, that he already mentions about that ever since a few months ago, which I don't think we can able to talk more about that again, because obviously it just upsets most people, including myself. Especially noticeable that we have to say farewell to the virtual console games as well. So because of that though, we are now strictly onto its locked portion for the sake of, you know, locked behind the Switch Online membership service, which I honestly don't mind too much for playing online games, but that's that. But aside from playing classic games on there, well, you always have to rely on the forms of the Switch Online membership service. And worst case scenario for the N64 games, along with Mega Drive games as well, that is locked behind the forms of the expansion pack, which as a result, it really bugs the hell out of me. It really does. And especially noticeable that, well, you're also able to miss out on the forms of certain DLC on 3DS stuff as well. For, you know, from the likes of, you know, New Super Mario Bros. 2, and also say applies to other titles as well, such as, for instance, oh yeah, the Mario Golf World Tour. Oh god, I might as well feel so sorry for that game for right now, because otherwise, if you guys not able to actually get a chance to able to get that game, or although if you do somehow manage to able to get the game, and somehow if you manage to stumble across a DLC option, well, sadly though, is the fact that you can no longer get the game, or no longer get the DLC anymore, just because, well, we can't use the eShop vouchers every now and then, because, well, it's just, well, gone forever. Like, literally, every single portions of the eShop apps is just gone forever, which, it still sucks. It still sucks. Enough about that particular negativity, because either way though, that we've pretty much almost able to try to wrap things up of these Robot Masters rematches. So in this case, next up is Needleman, so of course we still need to utilize that, I don't know, kind of a pointless ability, which appears to be, of course, the actual Gemini laser, which I still find this to be, you know, still finicky as it is. So anyways, let's go ahead and deal with the forms of the next Robot Master. Oh jeez, I think I accidentally got the wrong weapon, but at the very least, let's go ahead and use Spark, so Spark Shot to be more specific. Ah jeez, I keep running into those Robot Masters like a lunatic, but regardless of such though, we're able to actually kick his butt. So I think we are basically done with every single Robot Master rematches. So now to deal with all that, you get another extra life as a freebie. So I believe we are pretty much maxed out for its extra lives count right now. So I guess that's that. And after we get into that portal, then that stage ends. So yeah, we're about to be moving on to the next stage of the likes of the Dr. Wily Fortress stage number 3. So which I think that is the fact that we can able to now take on, well, Dr. Wylie himself. So but of course, before you deal with all that, let's go ahead and refill our let's just say let's reveal no, I did not meant to able to actually select Rush Marine, but Rush Coil for, let's just say, until the next stage, and well, for the final stage anyway. And let's just go ahead and see what's another extra life. That is so generous. But anyway, enough about that. So let's take on Dr. Wylie with Wily Capsule. Oh no, not Capsule, because that was before when, well, let's just say any future Mega Man games to become. But rather, we're going to be taking on Wily Machine 3. So because of that though, basically the first part is the fact that we need to use the Shadow Blade in order to take down this particular cannon turret. And then if you've done that, well, basically we now moved on to the second phase. And thankfully the second phase is also pretty easy as well, thanks to the forms of Rush Jet. So because of that though, let's go ahead and use our energy tank, so we can able to actually just go ahead and quickly select Rush Jet, and you can either go either left or right sides of the actual battle, so we can just simply keep shooting its glass dome, and that's it. While trying to able to ride on Rush Jet, and, well, he's pathetically easy. So because of that though, it's definitely one of the easier bosses in terms of the forms of one of those Wylie machines for this entire compilation so far, next to Wylie Machine 1, thanks to forms of that stupid rotating ball attack thing, which thankfully is super duper easy to dodge. And look at that, it's all a fake. So because of that though, the real Dr. Wylie is going to be on the final stage, isn't he? Because obviously he's now going to get his hands on Gamma himself. So yeah, I guess that's totally obvious because, well, you know, the peacekeeping robot Gamma, that's obviously that. Still, it just feels kind of weird for the actual Gamma's design for a robot because it's almost inspired by, you know, Gutsman as a result, because obviously Dr. Wylie has some serious relationship where it comes to the forms of, you know, inspired by certain things for Gutsman, because, you know, we stumbled across the statues of from Mega Man 1 and the Guts Door from Mega Man 2, and obviously whenever we come across into Gamma, that, you know, the entire robot's design is almost inspired by Gutsman's design, because, you know, before when Mega Man 7 was a thing, that obviously Dr. Willy, that basically he just managed to able to obtain himself Gutsman and stuff like that, which, seriously, it is kind of strange. So anyway, you know what the deal is for this entire final boss against with Gamma, although we need to able to go for this boss fight within 2 phases. So the first phase, you have to take down the this weird thing on top of its head, and then basically though, I think Shadow Blade is going to be once again the weakness, so I think it's probably best to able to jump, because obviously if you're trying to stand on its own, it will not reach. And also, you never believe what its true weakness is when it comes to Gamma himself, while Dr. Wylie just managed to take a ride on or try to take control of Gamma. Well, if we somehow manage to get up there somehow. Look, top spin is weakness. I mean, how unbelievable was that? Like, despite the fact that that weapon is useless to begin with, but at the very least, it is super effective on this boss fight for some reason, which I honestly have no words. Where's Dr. Wylie? Oh no, too late. I'm guessing he might have gone away. Epilogue. Mega Man, you have regained consciousness. I found you laying here when I arrived. I wonder who brought you here. This whistle, it must have been Proto Man. Which it turns out that is actually Mega Man's brother, of all things, which I'm not exactly sure what that actual specific descriptive is. Well, I do apologize for my commentary, it's a little bit stuttery at certain points, but regardless of such, we have completed Mega Man 3 of this entire Mega Drive version of this entire game. So because of that though, much like the forms of how it does it on the original version, it tells you the forms of that particular specific robot master's name was. So yeah, you get the idea about that. There's Roll here, and also obviously Mega Man himself, and of course that at the very end we stumbled across Proto Man, in this case a new prototype of any sorts. Although in Japan though, you know, like what Daffy Duck has already mentioned about from the likes of the NES version of Mega Man 3, Proto Man was also known as Blues in Japan because of music reference. So, because obviously with Blues and, you know, Japan's name for Mega Man called Rock, or in this case Rockman, and well, Roll. So yeah, I guess that makes it totally obvious. So, and there we go, that pretty much concludes Mega Man 3 from the likes of the Mega Man The Wily Wars version. And I still enjoy this game, even to this day. Well, despite the fact I did have some issues with this game though, specifically I'm looking at you, the Dark Robot segments, because you know, you need to be able to put up with the forms of stingy checkpoints, and as well as the forms of somewhat of a different altered level design for the likes of Spark Man, Needle Man, Shadow Man, and Gemini Man stages, where you have to replay that exact same stage again, but with different altered, you know, level design, like I said. So, But apart from that, I actually still enjoy this game, even especially noticeable just like the NES version as well. So I think you should still recommend able to play Mega Man 3 from the likes of not on the Wii U though, because it's no longer going to be purchasable now for not only on the Wii U but also the 3DS as well. But you can still able to get the game thanks to the forms of the PS4 release and the Xbox One, and even PC Steam, and of course Nintendo Switch for the Mega Man Legacy Collection, so I highly recommend getting those. So with that being said though, yeah, there's not much else to say in terms of Mega Man 3 on the Mega Drive version, so yeah, join me next time for more of Let's Play of Mega Man The Wily Wars, because after you complete all 3 games onto one save file, you're able to actually unlock the final game on this entire compilation. This appears to be Wily Tower, so that'll be exciting and new at the same time, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Later fellas.